we just do first the plug that we need to do, obviously. Okay. I don't know how many have heard about this entire. Usually we're not so known yet, but we are a very fast-growing company. We double every year. Every year. I'm not so long with a meter, so no business. Probably would express it. But it's a very good company. We are the leading cybersecurity company. What we are doing, nobody else can do. And we have a really, really good market that's growing. That's why we have to grow. So it's not that we're growing because we grow our revenues. It's not that we have so much to do, so we need to grow. It's a very, very great environment to work. This does need to talk about our free lunches. But we have now the coolness factor, right? We have actually a coolness coordinator or something like that. Yeah. Actually, our offices look like Kitchener at the moment. I mean, we have construction everywhere. But it's really good, and we work really leading edge technology, so that's something that we develop probably has an absolute interest in. And you know what? We are hiring. Surprised, but if you're interested, talk to me, talk to our yeah.
We're also hiring not just developers, but operation folks. I don't know if HR is hiring for HR or finance or things like that. Marketing's looking. So it doesn't really matter what you do.
Security office analysts.
Oh yeah, security analysts.
Product managers. So all kinds of stuff. Yeah. So we definitely have a lot of need in lots of different things. So if you're interested, talk to me, talk to Tim, talk to Sarah and Tara from HR. So I'm certainly interested in that. Okay, a little bit about myself. I have a master's in computer science and a law degree, which is people always look at me, why do I have a law degree? It's fun. And I have about 35 years of IT experience. I'm senior software developer in the services-oriented architecture team for APIs at CE Supplier. And we use extensively Ruby and obviously RSpec, so interested in the 3.0 things then. You certainly need to look into that. And we use Cucumber as well, or I try to get it to the next stage now with the usage. So that's something I want to explain here in the talk as well. And previously, before I started with this entire, I was an entrepreneur, I had my own business, did a lot of IT consulting, was in telecom, financial services, all kinds of places for IT. I was a part-time lecturer in universities. So, what am I going to talk to you about? I want to talk about a little bit first about what EDD is and why I think it's so important to think about that if that works in the development process that you are in. How many here are developers? Majority. How many of you do Ruby? Since we are a Ruby group. Okay, it's most of them. That's good. And now you do more flights somewhere. Actually, this is transferable to other languages too. Cucumber comes in different flavors and names sometimes, but it's working pretty much with the same thing. Actually, in our project, we combine Ruby and JavaScript Node.js and actually test those together with Cucumber and Curelet-Balan. So I want to talk a little bit about this whole process because for me it's more than just development and testing. It has to be really whole software lifecycle approach to work very efficiently. And then I will go a little bit about Cucumber and we'll try to do a little bit of demo. Maybe hopefully it works because demos are always scary. And then I just want to talk a little bit as well about what not to do. There are some things that you can fall into pitfalls and yeah, that's about it. So, BDD, Behavior-Driven Development. What is BDD? Well, what it really means is that we had TDD, test-driven development. So that is certainly one of the columns that BDD is based on. But there are certain things in test-driven development that is a big problem. One of the things is, how do you know what to test? Where does it come from? I mean, when we talk about unit tests and aspect and whatever we do with aspect unit testing, it's mostly what white box testing, we developers come up with it, we say, okay, that's how we think it should work, right? But that is not really how clients, internal clients, external clients expect necessarily the things to happen. So I remember when I did my first degree long time ago, what we talked about was requirements. So at the time there was this whole discussion about software verification versus software validation. So do we prove that the software works correctly mathematically, or do we test, right? And well, most of the time we got, well, it doesn't really matter what we do. The problem is, how do we know that the requirements are correct, or that they're correctly understood? So everything else that we do afterwards doesn't really happen, right? And that is where it comes with BDD a bit better in a line, because we say, well, we involve actually where the requirements come from and allow to say that the requirements are correct. So we can create a document that helps us with our testing, and we will say, okay, that is well approved by whoever wants to later use the software or gives us the project to do. So it's based in continuous integration. So it's certainly something that is, for me, essential if I want to use iterative process. So that means, well, how many here know the waterfall model? Okay, most of you. So with the waterfall model, it just didn't work, right? It's terrible, So we all have gone already with agile methods and TDD into an environment where we need continuous integration, right? If we don't test every time automatically, because, well, we want to quite frankly release every week, right? So we can't have a QA department so big that they can test every feature like every week, right? So that doesn't really work. So we have to do that automatically. So continuous integration. Every time we do a feature, every time we put something into the revision system, we want to check that it works. So that is certainly the basis. And so now we come really to one of the main things in BDD. The test should specify the desired behavior of a unit. So that is where the behavior driven comes from. So we actually describe the behavior. That is very good for the requirements too, because how often do you have somebody coming to you and explaining to you exactly how you're supposed to write the software? That's our job to figure out, right? We don't want to have people coming and say, oh, you do this now this way. Okay, then I'm going into the product management for you because you're into my product. So it helps really to create a discipline of concentrating on the what is the behavior I expect. Right? So, and we will see how that actually goes through Curelet-Balan. But as I said already, why BDD? The waterfall model is not working. I mean, everywhere in the news are always these projects that are these big projects. The e-house was one of these examples here. I don't know what else. They come with all these requirements, probably. I saw, when I worked in telecom, we had probably 20 binders full of requirements that we were supposed to implement. Doesn't really work. But my question is Agile working outside the core development teams? Right? Everybody who talks about Agile always talks about, oh yeah, we do development Agile, we do this iterative process, we do our scrums, we go and test everything automatically, and then, but then what happens? Do we release the third release in the same kind of speed? That's what we do. Right? Do we get the requirements in the same kind of speed? No, that's the problem, right? And do we get that in chunks that work with our speed of iteration? Right? Again, that's something that BDD can have. And then again, how do the tests reflect the desired behavior? Okay. About using BDD. For me, there is no defined rule. I mean, there are a lot of practices, and it's good to look into that, but at the end, do what works. If it doesn't work, do something different, change it, iterate, pivot, right? That's what we do anyway, so do it as a process. What I find really work is I use unit tests with RSpec. So that is more like a developer. You write your tests the same way you write your code, similar, or even RSpec is BDD too, because we actually write proper sentences what the test does, and not just the name or something like that. But generally, it works better. It's closer together. But the other thing is the requirements. My goal is to get the requirements actually written in a document that is actually my feature set for Cucumber. And everyone will, how do you do that? Well, that is a nice thing of Cucumber. We actually talk about natural language. So it is not that you have to be a developer to be able to write something for Cucumber. Anybody who can speak and write a language, and it's not only English, obviously we use Cucumber in English, but it's actually translated in all kinds of languages, so you couldn't do it in other languages too. And that, as I said before, allows not only the tracking that the requirements are correct, because I mean, even if I write my tests and I give them to somebody who is not a developer, how do they know that my tests do what they want? Right? I can say, oh, I have 1,000 tests, I'm succeeding, and okay, but it doesn't do what I want when they use it. But the other thing is with if you use it really in the way that you come with requirements, use them as features in Cucumber, you can actually track the progress through the project. So you know where you are. So it's like, I have always a project manager coming to me as, okay, what's the estimate? When you're finished? I don't know. What do you want me? Like, do some kind of guess and then you laugh about me because it's wrong or something like that? I mean, that doesn't really help anybody because, how do we do? If we don't get the requirements in the chunks that you can estimate, while they're all the same size, so we can say where we are or something like that, it's really difficult. So again, that is the process to get there, where you can really make estimations that are based on some kind of objective measurements instead of just saying, oh, maybe we are finished next week. Okay, let's go to Cucumber. Yeah. So Cucumber uses language that is called Gherkin, and it's a business-readable, domain-specific language. What does it mean? Well, it's a business language, so business management can understand it, it's readable by them. I would say it's not only readable, it's writable by them too. At least that's what I expect. And domain-specific language means just, well, you can use it in any area you write software for. And it allows the documentation and the automated testing. So not only is it something that we use for testing, but it's just something that is documentation too. Because we actually have a description of all the features of the system that we will have developed at the end. So that is always a good thing. And again, it's readable for everybody. So if you want to do any kind of special documentation, so technical writers that don't have programming skills and can read code, they can read that. So they have already a lot easier way to write some kind of documentation about the system without bugging the developers. And then it is easily integrated into CIs, so continuous integration. I don't know what everybody here uses, and we use Jenkins for that. There's no problem using it there. And actually, one of the things as well, for me, not so much because I don't do UIs, it works very well with UI testing too. So You can drive Selenium through Cucumber, you can drive Apache to Cucumber, especially in the Ruby community, very interesting. So you can actually even do what is always considered a very, very hard thing to test a UI. So Gherkin is basically based on features. As I said, that works very well because that's what we want to do in our iterative programming process. So I don't want to have some kind of document that says, well, we want to have this big thing that does something, like a toaster. No, I want to know the feature. What is the toaster supposed to do? Now we want to say, what is the behavior of the product, right? What is the behavior of our software? So instead of saying, I want a toaster, I want to have something, if I put a toast in it and wait 5 minutes, I want to have, bread, then I will get a toast out of it. So, and you see, this is actually something that we can use, and I can run it through Cucumber in a moment. It doesn't really make a lot of sense, but Cucumber can do it. So, the whole structure is basically, you have always a feature, and you give it a name. You can use a whole sentence for that. And then you have a block where you just describe what the feature is. That is good for the whole business part, because they can write there anything they want. We in the testing, for development, there's maybe some interesting information in there as well, but for the test, there's nothing in there, right, that we use. It's just a documentation, a description, right, that explains, well, what I would like to have in there is, why do you want it? Right? What is the reason? What is the priority? What are the dependencies? Right? All these kind of things that in the project management part of it, people can say, okay, I understand what's going on. I know how to prioritize features. I know how to estimate what kind of consequences are for other features. And then we talk about what we need for the testing. So that's all in form of scenarios. As I said, what is the behavior in a particular scenario? And that has 3 different parts. The given part, that is basically a setup of a defined state. So that we always know we start the test in the same place, right? Because one of the things with tests is you don't want to tests that are predictable. Something that is, the only thing worse than no test is a brittle test. If I don't know, oh, it works sometimes, it doesn't work, then I don't need to test. So you always need to set up that you have the same kind of environment that you start with. Then you have this, and you have always this end that you can put in there to basically add different things together. Then the second thing is the action. That's the when. When somebody does something, when something happens, when whatever. What is the initiator? What are the actions that happen that cause this kind of behavior? And again, we might have several things. And remember, we want to test, so then you have to say, okay, what do I test then against? I have now initiated something, and then our software does something, so I need to know what the result is supposed to be. And that is the then. So I can use then, something comes, and something else, and then I can have a but, and I want to have that. So that's all. So nobody can tell me, nobody that has a high school degree from Canada or somewhere else in the world can tell me that they can't write features like that. Right? So there's no excuse, like when always people say, oh, I can't really write that because it's like programming. So that brings the whole client and development group far closer together. And these things can be actually part of a negotiation. So you write them together. You write part of it in different departments and put them together. Or talk about what you want to change. And then you get your sign-off of there. And then you just get set. So, all problems are solved. let's just, what is a summary of what I just said. The three parts are really the important thing. You create the predefined state in given. You describe the actions that happen on the system with when. And then you describe the outcomes with that. And that is the desired behavior. That's why we are behavior development. Behavior driven. Well, that's nice. I actually got that from the wiki from Cucumber. That's basically the description of explaining Cucumber for non-developers. Written in good. So, to explain Cucumber, that's in order to gain an understanding of Cucumber testing system. As a non-programmer, I want to have an overview of Cucumber that is understandable by non-geeks. Okay, yeah. So, what is the scenario? A worker seeks an overview of Cucumber. Okay, that is our setup. Well, that's our scenario, right? Given I have a co-worker who knows a lot about Cucumber, so that is the setup, right? I need to have somebody who knows about it. When I ask my co-worker to give an overview of how Cucumber works, and I listen to their explanation, so that's the action, right? We have two actions. Somebody needs to explain it, someone needs to listen. Then I should have a basic understanding of Cucumber. So we can test that. We can do a test afterwards, isn't it? Yeah.
So, I mean, this all makes sense, but oftentimes you don't know what you don't know. You don't know what you need. And so, like, I wouldn't necessarily go seeking Cucumber. I'd come to you and say, our software is crap. What's wrong? I told you what I wanted. And that isn't the question on, you know, I'm looking for Cucumber. You might turn around and say, well, what you should be asking me is, hey, how can we, you know, find out about Cucumber? But how do you deal with that issue of the chicken egg where the people who are making the ask don't actually really know where they're going? They just kind of sort of feel like, oh, that looks like it's getting better.
Okay, I mean, generally, the thing is, what you described wasn't a feature, and it wasn't a requirement. That was a rant.
Okay. There.
Right? So that's the first thing, right?
Yeah.
So the next thing is, well, how do you get about it? What I do is I tell people that actually their job gets easier, and they have less stress when we do that together. Right? And as I said, it's often as well a learning process.
So is this in the context of a meeting where you're, say, generating this document while you're having a conversation and then you review it together?
Yeah, that could be the case, right? And so you go and say, well, instead of sitting together and have a meeting where we just talk about stuff and then there are no action items or something like that, so a meeting that basically is a waste of time, we can go in and say, well, instead of talking about all these things in the cloud that this project is supposed to do, let's get real. You know, we don't need to discuss things that we don't know, right? You said, I don't really know what I want. Well, if you don't know what you want, then we are not in a place that we can start a project anyway, right? So maybe we need to think more, what do you need, right? And that's where the whole explanation part comes in. Somehow, somebody has a need, they want something, right? So we need to get to figure out what is it exactly that they need. So what is their immediate need? And that's what I'm interested in. I'm not so much interested in what the long-term need is, because remember, we are not waterfall, and we don't want to go into yuck me, right? You ain't gonna need it, right? Because that is always the case if these kind of fuzzy things you think you need, and then we focus on that, and then we get something, and then nobody uses it. Well, that is not very efficient, right? So we get more on, and that is the thing, why you get on the feature level. Because you know, and especially with the behavior, you know what you want the system to do. You have an immediate need, you know what you expect. Let's focus on that, don't focus on the other stuff, right? And then fill it out for the business process with some of the things. Why do you need it? What are, for instance, the benefits to the company, right? So maybe you save money or save time or whatever, or you can do something you couldn't do before, right? And then you can think about what are the dependencies. So you step by step get those kind of information together that you should have in a proper requirement document anyway. So it's not really something different. So anybody who has to write requirements, it's actually a help. It's because you get in a structure that you should have in the first place. If you don't have it, you write bad requirement documents, and then the development department does what they want because they don't know what they're supposed to do, and nobody's happy.
Well, and I get that, but like I have this feeling like more often I get people who would come in and say, I have this problem. Like I don't go to the doctor and say, I need an antibiotic.
Yeah.
I go to the doctor and say, I'm having trouble breathing. And the doctor
Yeah.
says, you have pneumonia, you need
But
an
again,
antibiotic.
you ask about what, right? You go to the doctor and say, I have a certain situation, right? That is a given. I have pneumonia or whatever. I have pain in my lungs or whatever. Right?
Yeah, yeah.
And then you say, well, I want to somehow get rid of it. So what can I do? So what do I do? That goes away. So what happens, right? So it's a little bit difficult to, because we are not doctors, obviously.
Yeah, yeah.
We're software developers, right?
So it seems
But
like
you get to the point where you say, well, I want to have a certain outcome, right? So maybe start with the outcome. And then we think about what are the actions that you do to initiate it, right?
But what
And then we
what
get-
he's describing
Yeah.
is exactly the job of a product manager. What you started with was, I have a problem, right? And then it's up to the product manager to figure out and understand what problem they have, and then turn that into a set of features that will hopefully solve that problem.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, so when I look at this, it seems like the user, I'll call it, or the asker, would write the given and the then, and then the developer would have to write the bits that the meat in the middle, right? That
Well,
they know where
yes,
they
it has
started
to
and
be
they.
there. If you start to put things in here that explain how to solve the problem, then you're missing the case. That is not what it's asking. It's just a description of what. What does somebody do to initiate the actions, and what is the desired outcome? That's why we have the behavior, right? We have to have, in software, we always have to have something that initiates, right? Maybe it's periodically. Okay, then it's not an action of some human or something like that, but something that is happening every hour. I want to do something, right? Then that would be in the given. There's an action every hour, right? And then what is supposed to be the outcome? Yeah.
I was just thinking maybe for an example to build on like Tim's example of like the scenario of my lungs hurt. Given is, you have, your lungs hurt.
Yeah.
Then when I go to the doctor,
Yeah.
then the doctor gives me a treatment, then I feel better. And whether it's antibiotics or
Yeah, the actions
aspirin
going to
is
the doctor.
detail,
Yeah.
but the scenario is the when and the givens are I get a treatment and I feel better.
Yeah, you can do that this way. So the scenario is the given. The given is you have the lung problem. Then the action is you go to the doctor, right? So that's already your action. And let's say this doctor would be the software. You go and start a query in the doctor software, right? And then you want to have a certain result, right? So that's basically the thing. And you're totally right. That is something that product managers already do. They just often do it not so structured, or it is not done at all. That is often found as well. It's just like you get these kind of high-level things. We want to have a system that does something. And my question is always, do you want to have coffee and toast as well? Or can we do that outside?
Yeah, I think this process probably starts after someone has decided that they want to build something or they have the higher level idea first of all, and this is when they want to get to the meat
Yeah.
and sit together and say,
You already
this
know
is
there's
you
an
already
issue.
know the big issue.
You want to do something,
Yeah.
and now we're getting to define,
So
okay,
this
what is
more
it?
like
What are the small
requirements
things?
elicitation.
Right. And instead of making this whole big description, as I said with Waterfall, where you say, well, I want to have a accounting software. No, you say, what is the different features, right? I want to be able to book a deposit into my account. I want to book a drawing on my account. So each of those would be different features, and you describe them as separate features and scenarios, and therefore you create the completeness of the requirements through the number of features you write, right? instead of just saying, I want to have a accounting software.
I describe it a little differently in that you could have your product manager write everything in Gherkin, right?
Yeah.
Then the team naturally goes through, or should go through, a grooming or an elaboration phase, right? Where they're trying to understand what the product manager is asking. And oftentimes you've got your testers in there, you've got some developers in there.
Absolutely.
During that discussion, a whole bunch of other behaviors surface that the product manager has not yet articulated.
Right. And you immediately write them as well.
Exactly.
Or
So
you come to the
start
other
writing
point where you say, oh, actually, this behavior I don't need.
Right.
And then you drop it, or you put it in the backlog, or all kinds of things. So yeah, that is a negotiation process. Somebody initiates it, and maybe starts it, but at the end, the different parts of the organization need to get into agreement. That's why I say that is an ideal requirement document that gets signed off by everybody. Because now we talk about the same thing, right? Hopefully.
At the same time, I think this is the simplicity, whereas previously people used UML scenarios and that's alternatives, and they are like written in like, they describe more like, okay, make a box and put this thing here in the box and put that thing here in the box, and that's more a diagram. Right? This is more like executable requirements. That's also
it's
one
more
of the,
about the behavior.
Yeah.
And this sounds more about how, and that's where I always get the problem. Right?
Oh, yeah.
You can draw a correlation between use case scenarios and UML diagrams to support use case scenarios. And right, and writing RStack or writing Gherkin.
So let's see. I have here one of those bogus features, I think.
You might need to make the font bigger.
Yeah, I will. Just give me a minute. That's better? Okay, so again, it's pretty much the same thing. I just put some more blocks that I will explain a little bit later. And then this is basically, you have again, every feature would be one file. So that makes it easy as well, again, because we want to do our whole process on features. So we want to be able to take features out and in, depending on priorities and so on, and they might change all the time, right? So we decouple those kind of things. So that we can just say, okay, we put this in, we put this in, and then somebody comes, no, we have a really urgent thing because the customer really needs that very, very urgent. Okay, then we put this feature and then take that around, no problem. And then we can basically run over all these features the Cucumber software. And well, what I should probably do first is say, okay, how we do that, because it's very, very easy. When we want to start, I can just say create some kind of directory. The only thing that I have now is basically the Cucumber gem installed, so I can use it. And just say Cucumber in it, and it creates everything. So I have my features folder or directory, which I will put all my feature files in. Then I have a set definition, we get later to that, and some support stuff is something that we can deal with to make it work, whatever we want to do. So if I go back to my other one where I have already something in, so I have the file already, so I just put it into my features directory. So there's a background example feature. And I just run Cucumber, it automatically goes through it, and we can't see everything at the moment, but it basically, what it does now is basically saying, I have all these different steps that belong to that, right? So it again explains I have the pretty mode, how it's called at the moment. You can do as well just a progress mode where you get just dots. But so you get basically all the information, you see exactly what's going on, and through the color you see where you are. So we have undefined steps because we haven't really done anything yet, right? So we just started. And then the nice thing for Cucumber is, if everything is basically now there, I can just take those step definitions and put them into a file. And I usually put them in step. That's features. Step definitions. So I can call them whatever I want to. Call them steps.rb, and basically paste everything in there how it is, and you see everything is automatically pending because we haven't done anything, but that basically creates our definitions. And if we go back and run Cucumber again, now actually we see that we have skipped the pending definitions. And through the process, whenever we fill things in now, those things change, and that is how you can track the progress through your project. So if we have features, again, hopefully they have similar size. It is very easy because then we can say, hey, we have 50% of the features done, we have 50% of the project done. Right? So that is somehow the goal as well, to get into that. So you have far more predictability, how to use resources, how to assign stuff, when you will be finished, what kind of dependency conflicts will happen out of that and so on. And again, this is again something you get the buy-in for from project managers now, that they participate, because I get something out of it too. It's not just work for me. It's actually something that makes my job easy. Right? Project managers the same way. So that's the whole idea. Okay, so there are some things that you want to consider when you write all these kind of things. There's a lot of things in Agile. One of the main issues we have is reusability, right? We want to not do things every time again, new. We want to reuse, right? And part of those kind of things is to write the scenarios, obviously, in a way that the step definitions are reusable, and that you can deal as well with examples. If we do it like here in the top, we have basically two scenarios that are basically describing pretty much the same thing. I mean, one time there are 12 cucumbers and 5 are eaten, and the other time it's 20 cucumbers and 5 are eaten. Right? So you get different results, but it's pretty much the same, right? So if you do something like that, you instead of doing a scenario, you do a scenario outline where you can basically put in your variables, and then you just put in examples. So we have now the same thing in the examples. So the variables are associated with the example, and then we create that. So that is one form of the reuse. That is in particular interesting when you want to do things like edge cases and so on. Okay, then the background. That's another part of the whole idea of reuse. Sometimes your state that you want to create, where you test from, is quite complicated, right? As I said before, unit testing I do with Aspect. This is really more integration testing. So I maybe have to set up different things. I maybe have to set up a database. I maybe have to set up some kind of communication system that does things between different components. I maybe set up different components. So it can be quite tedious. And if the background is the same for many scenarios, you want to put those definitions into the background, so you only do it once. Right? Again, copy and paste is something we don't want, because maybe something changes, and then we have a problem. Right? So testing actually is the same like writing code. You want to have the same good practices. Right? And background is one of those things that helps it. And if you saw in my example, the steps that were created out of it came actually as well out of the background. Give me some common precondition and some other common precondition from the background, right? They are just normal steps that
Is
we
background executed once or once every scenario?
It's executed once every scenario.
And is there a corresponding teardown?
Pardon?
Is there a corresponding teardown?
That doesn't really use a teardown. So there are hooks that you can use as well that are the normal setup and teardown. But that is more to describe some similar things that I wouldn't really use that for setup and teardown directly. If you really have a lot of setup and teardown, use the hooks instead. That is more for, well, let me put it in this way. The teardown is not important for the documentation and the clarity of what you do. That is something that is testable. The setup sometimes can be. If it's not, I put it in a book, like I put the teardown in a book, right, that runs after every scenario or before every scenario. If it's something that gives addition to the documentation, to the understanding, then I put it in the background. So that is the decision that I make with using this documentation. But generally, what you write into the background is basically the same thing like if you would write it into the scenario directly. It's just for using it together. Oops. That's not what I wanted. I wanted to go to the step definition. So if you look at it, you have the common precondition, just in the same way here in the given, like you have the other ones, right? Some preconditions. So it's treated the same way. It's just instead of writing in every scenario, you write in one place to basically drawing, right?
Yeah, I was just thinking of part of your background. Say you're driving somebody, and part of your background is I want to log in, or given that I'm logged in.
Yeah.
And that drives a login action.
Yes, and you do that for every action that you do.
Right. And so somewhere after every scenario, you've got to log in.
Well, yeah, but that is not important for the feature itself. Right? You would have a feature that you can log out, but for the feature, for the completion of an action while you log in, it's not important that you sometimes log out. That is totally different. Right? But in order to test the whole system,
so then
with the login, you have to do it every time you put in. Because with a test, you don't do multiple things in one time like a normal user would do. A test always has to start at the same situation. And the same situation is, well, we have the system clean, now we log in, right, and then we do the test, right? So, obviously, you could do it, even log in both ways. You could put it in a hook because you say, well, it's clear, you always have to be logged in, so it doesn't really benefit your documentation. But you could have things where for some things you have to be logged in, for some things you don't, then it is very important for the documentation. Then you put it rather into the background. Right? But again, these are the things. Use it how it fits you. There is no pre-prescribed way. This is how I do it. Right? And it works for me. For somebody else, it might work differently. Right? Okay. Are we on time? So, these step definitions that we just see, they're basically always a given when and then. So actually, you saw may have noticed or not, actually all the ands and the buts we had are basically translated into where they belong to. So they are given, they are when, and they are intent, right? They defined in features step definitions, so in this directory, so Cucumber can always find them. And they're using regex or string. I didn't really have anything in there that was something with variables or something like that. But in order to combine things, you basically use regex or you can use string variables to make those, again, reusable, so that you don't have to write for every 100 things that are basically very, very similar another step definition, right? You can combine it in the way it works. You have just one step definition. That is one of the major parts. Try to write your steps in a way that are similar, that are as similar as possible. If you do the same thing, write it the same thing, right? Or again, put it in the background if it's possible. Right? Obviously, actions usually, well, will maybe have, if you have multiple actions, sometimes be the same. And if you do the same thing, write it exactly the same, then you use the same step definition. Cucumber, when it creates all the step definitions that are needed, that I just copied and paste, takes account of those kind of things as far as it can. Obviously, if you write them differently, you think it's different. Right? It's not a semantic software. It's just, okay, it's the same, then I use it. So that is where this kind of structure, discipline needs to be there to do it in this kind of way. And then basically, so basically what it is basically a pattern matching. If it matches, this step is basically executed. And it basically in Ruby just calls a block, where you put in all the things that you want to do. Right? So what exactly you do, the method that is called to use this functionality or whatever it is, and that is then executed. And then you test it. And that is similar in all kinds of other things. So, just as an example, here we have something with something that you can basically match. So we just have a regular expression for digits. So we know we have a certain number of cucumbers, and that is what we'll find, and then we put our Ruby code in there. In this case, we can just put in as well a string variable. In this case, we get it as a string. But you always get a string. So, and those kind of expressions, when you put them in step definitions, would basically be passed into that. So it's again a regular expression actually. And we see the difference is those things are less exact because they just take anything. While here you said, oh, I want to look only for digits. Otherwise I don't digits. And often it is not optimal what you get from Cucumber. That is where you do some work in optimizing it. And then the nice thing is, if you just add the gem aspect expectations, you can actually use the expectations from aspect. So you probably have already a lot of things that you did in your unit testing that works in there as well. And that's why you see the flow. I mean, the flow I'm using is I'm starting with the requirements, creating the features out of it, start with that, and then I do code for each scenario, starting with one scenario after the other, and do my unit test for it, and then I go at the same time run the Cucumber and add to that. Yeah.
How is bike passed to the block in this case?
Yeah.
How is bike passed to the block in this case? Where you expect bike, is that somehow linked to the regex in the given?
Well, this is basically then, an instant of an object. On object.
The bike in the expect has nothing to do with the word bike in the regex.
No.
Right, okay.
No.
It's just something that happens to be there.
Well, the thing is, this was created by Cucumber.
Yeah.
This is what you write in there.
Yeah.
And you write in there according to the code that you do, right? So, as I said, I'm having that, so I know the scenarios that I want to fulfill, so I focus on one scenario. I write my actual unit test then, because this doesn't give me any how, right? So now I have to still do my design. My design I do while I'm writing my unit tests and then fill out the code that makes the unit tests. And then I don't really, well, then I go back when I have the unit done to put in there to match with the features, right?
Okay.
So that I get this kind of way. So this is integration testing for me, the unit testing is unit testing. So it's a little bit going in circles, but that is in order to get the full scope of it, right?
Yeah, and I wonder maybe something similar to what you could do in unit tests, like defining helpers. That I guess in this example, like your bike method could be a helper method, right? And it gets called and it knows the details
Yeah.
of how to get whatever the bike is that you're going to be looking at.
Yeah.
And in your scenario, all you have to say is bike.
And that is the reason why I'm coming back, right? The unit test I write before I write the code. But because the unit test already helps me designing how I write the architecture, then I go back, when I'm here at the beginning, I don't know really the design yet. But then when I've done it, then I know what exactly happens and I can fill that out, right? Because then the design is already established. Okay, I already talked about that. Try to use similar definition for reusability as possible and feasible. And one of the other things is there are several frameworks that provide already step definition from the CAN, which is really good. In this moment, it works a little bit different. You need to know what they're really trying to catch, and then you write your steps accordingly, right? So that is where you have to have a little bit of knowledge of the system, of the framework, when you write your steps. But then you can just use those. Factory Girl, I don't know, who knows who uses Factory Girl? Sorry for the name, it's not my name. It's basically something to create objects instead of fixtures to test for. I know Rails has some step definitions, and there are other frameworks that have that too. So that is as well very helpful. And there we come as well to the organization. That is for me a very important thing, to how to organize the step definitions, because there's a lot of these things just coupling of things. I want to be able to reuse stuff. I want to be able to take step definitions that have proven very, very good and use them in other features that I create and so on. So it's very important to group them in a way that they're not coupled, so that you can easily take files. That's why you usually put them in several files. You can put them all in one file if you want to, but then it makes it hard to take the pieces out that you can reuse for other things. So again, it's just one of those best practices. One of these anti-patterns. Yeah, that's one of these. Don't use conjunction steps. So don't say when I fill in the name field and the address field. But why? Well, there's probably a big possibility that there's another scenario where you only fill out one of these and not both. And now you have it coupled and you can't reuse it. Right? So therefore we want to reuse it. So better just you say, when I fill in the name field and I fill in the address field. Now we have two separate steps and they can be reused independently. And again, I talked about it a little bit, is how you organize them. One of the anti-pattern is to group them together in a way that they are coupled in ways that don't help you. So you don't want to put these like edit work and edit language and edit education, all these kind of things. You probably have a lot of duplication now, and you can't really rip them apart very easily, and it's just a mess and gets to be technical debt, right? And that's what we usually don't want. Okay. course. One of the things that I wanted to just talk about as well in this whole area is mocking and stubbing. I don't know how many of you know the Martin Fowler blog about this issue. I think if you don't, Google it, it's really interesting to read. I personally like stubbing generally better. It just works for me better. I don't need to have a full jubel of an object when I just don't want to call the database, but just somehow mock it. Because when I just start it, I just put in the behavior that I expect from this system that I don't want to test, and have that directly in the test. So I see the expectation and the stubbing that I do of this external system in lines that are very close together, so I can always see what's happening. When you mock, you usually mock it in a more general way and have it somewhere else, and then it gets totally ripped apart, and you don't really know what's happening anymore. You have to look at 500 different pages of your code, and everything gets crazy. And for me, tests have to be even easier readable than code, because that again is documentation for me. It's examples how the software works, and then you just lose this when your test gets totally wild and nobody understands them. I use the stubbing extensively in unit testing because for me unit test is really only what I'm doing. It's a part of the codes that I'm writing, nothing else. So there's no database, there's nothing else outside that. There are even other things that work in my area. I don't have that in the unit test. And then in Cucumber I do the integration testing where I put everything that my team does together and run it together. And in my case, I usually use Docker containers and bind them together so that I can run everything in a clean way and get very, very easy integration tests. I can run a container with database, I can run a container with a messaging broker, I can run a container with whatever else I need, Redis or whatever. So everything is nice and clean. It's always, when the container runs up, has a predefined state. And I do integration tests over everything that I do, and I only stub out all the external systems. Because obviously, a lot of things I can only do in a production environment, and I want to test against the production environment. That would be bad. So that is what I stub out in Cucumber. And then again, something to think about is fixtures versus factories. Again, I have my preference in factories, but Cucumber can do this. So there's no problem whatever you want to do. Again, factories for me are the same thing with stubbing. It's far more readable and understandable. So the conclusion, I don't see agile or behavior-driven development just as something that happens in the development department. It has to happen in the whole software lifecycle. And you really need to work in getting the buy-in from other departments to try to get on this, to basically create those kind of synergies that I talked about. And it really helps to get you in the habit to think in form of features and not of projects. Features is the thing that helps you to be agile. It helps you to you can go to the point where you do a release for every feature. Because you have your continuous integration, you have all your testing. I have test coverage that are between 98 and 100%. So I have a lot of confidence in this stuff. And not only that, share those feature definitions with other departments. Documentation can benefit from it. Quality assurance can benefit from it. You can do whole systems, so not only what I call integration, but integration over different development teams in automated testing in quality assurance. And they can run from the same feature file. Because if you really think about it, a feature is often not something that is just in one team. A feature is something that spreads over several development teams. So if you treat it in this way, and everybody works in the same way, synchronized, you get all the things happening at the same time. And you can release a feature over the whole range of products that you have that need to work together, instead of just having this and that and grip and drop and whatever. Right? It's a management method.